Hi, I'm Matt Lighty from Matt Lighty Photography. I want to talk to you today about the question I get more than any other, and that is, what is the best camera to buy? Typically get this from aspiring professional photographers who are just trying to figure out where they want to go, what they want to do. They don't have a ton of money to invest, but yet they want to get started with something. And there's a couple things I want to talk about in terms of what is the best camera. To begin with, you really have to understand what it is you want to photograph. Like if you're going to be a professional photographer, are you going to be doing commercial work, studio work? Like if it's commercial and studio work, you're probably going to want a higher resolution camera, maybe a medium format digital camera. Those are tremendously expensive. Maybe you're going to shoot high school sports. Well, you're going to need a camera with faster shutter and higher ISO sensitivity. Or maybe you're just going to do portrait photography. You know, somewhere in the middle of that spectrum is where a camera will fall for somebody that's doing general, portrait photography. But the question to really ask is not what's the best camera for you, but maybe what's the best camera system. Because when you're buying into a system, you're not just buying this camera body. The camera body is somewhat replaceable. Camera manufacturers are incentivized to bring out new camera bodies year over year, just like phone manufacturers bring out a new phone, because every year the phone gets incrementally better. Well, so do camera bodies. But typically, camera bodies will last you 3 or 4 years. But the lenses that you buy into with a system, those lenses generally last you the much longer life cycle than the camera body. Now, recently, we have kind of gone through an evolution of lenses. It used to be the old Canon and Nikon lenses that were used for years are being replaced as new mirrorless systems come out. So we're moving away from digital SLRs into mirrorless systems. And so that is requiring people to rebuy lenses. I'm kind of a slow to migrate guy, so I'm still using a DSLR. So all of my lenses are still working fine. And there are adapters to use with those lenses, but that begs the question, as time goes on, you need to figure out who do you want to go with, because you don't want to start with one Canon manufacturer and then all of a sudden decide, you know what, I want to move away from Canon and go to Sony, or I want to leave Sony and go to Nikon, or wherever, because it's incredibly expensive to keep rebuying lenses over and over again. And you're not going to put a Canon lens on a Sony body. Just likewise, you're not going to necessarily buy a Sigma lens, which is typically what I use. I love Sigma Art Series lenses. This is the Sigma 24-105 Art Series lens, one of my go-to lenses. Try to break it as I put it back on my camera. Anyway, this Canon lens is not going to work on a Nikon body. It's only going to work on this Canon EF Series mount. So when you're starting off your journey, think about who you want to go with. Is it Canon, Sony, Nikon? And frankly, it doesn't matter. They're all excellent manufacturers. All of the cameras are going to work incredibly well. They're going to do just about everything you need. One of the things that I like to tell people is when you're thinking about buying a camera, you really need to focus on how does the camera feel, because every camera feels different. Some are going to be heavier than others. Some are going to be just unwieldy for small hands, or if you have big hands, the small buttons are going to be a problem. What I really recommend is before you decide on whose camera you're going to go with or what brand, go to your local camera store, talk to the experts there, hold some of the cameras and let them kind of guide you on a journey of what are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish as a photographer? I've held Canon cameras, I've held Nikon cameras. When I first started into photography, I was a huge Minolta guy. Well, Minolta merged with Konica. Konica Minolta then was bought by Sony. And I really liked the Sony cameras, but I was already heavily invested in Canon at the time. There was a time when I was going through the religious debate of do I go Canon or Nikon? This was before Sony was even on the scene. And I held several Nikon cameras, and a lot of my friends shoot with Nikon. And I held them, and everything about them just felt backwards. Like no matter how much I tried, nothing felt intuitive. But as soon as I put my hands on a Canon camera, they felt incredibly intuitive, incredibly comfortable. Now, if you ask my Nikon friends, they'll pick up a Canon camera and say, it's backwards, everything makes no sense, and I can't use this camera, and I totally get it. Like once you get into a system like that, you start to get in the flow, and the cameras don't deviate typically that much. So the question isn't what camera should I buy, it's what system should I get into. I highly encourage you to go to your local camera shops and try out and hold different bodies. If you can't do that, Another option is to use one of the online rental companies. Have them ship you 2 or 3 different bodies and 2 or 3 different lenses so you can get a feel for how they work. Because not only is it how the camera feels, but it's going to be the menu. Is the interface on the menu intuitive? Does it make sense to you? Is it easy to navigate? Or is it something that's going to frustrate you? These are all things that come into play, and you don't want to make the expensive mistake of buying thousands and thousands of dollars worth of camera gear only to find out, I should have gone with the other brand because I like them better. It makes more sense to me and it's more intuitive. And now you've got to sell all that gear and rebuy all that gear. You're not going to get your money back, and it's going to be an incredibly frustrating experience. Another thing I would recommend is don't necessarily dive into buying all brand new gear. In the beginning, when you're just starting out, cameras are expensive, lenses are expensive. You will save a ton of money if you go the used route. If you buy a body that's 1 or 2 years older than what's currently being made, you'll save a ton of money. The camera will be just as good. And frankly, you're new, you won't notice the difference. So it's a perfect time to get in, start building your collection of lenses, and then move over into new lenses if you need to. I always go and look at the used inventory because you never know what you're going to find. In fact, just the other day I was at my local camera shop and I found this Canon EOS M50 Mark II camera. This camera retails for about $600 or $700 right now. I was able to get this camera basically used. It's in like new condition for just under $500 for the lens in the camera and battery and everything. And it's a fun little camera just to tote around and do some experimental work with mirrorless photography. So again, go get used gear. You'll save a ton of money. There are photographers coming into the game every day, and there are twice as many photographers getting out of the game every day because people realize running a photography studio is a challenge. It's not easy. And so they are quick to get in because it looks like a quick, fast cash, and they are real fast to get out and dump their gear at a fraction of the price. So always keep your eye out all over the place. Facebook Marketplace, eBay, Craigslist, you name it, there is somebody got the camera you want for sale at a fraction of the price of what it would be new. So to sum it up, there are 3 things to look for. 1, not the camera, but the system. Figure out who you want to go with. 2, hold the camera. Feel if it feels ergonomically correct for you. Try out different camera manufacturers. And then finally, buy used whenever you can, because as a new photographer just starting out, the worst thing you can do is go into debt with a bunch of camera gear. You need to make wise decisions when you're starting your business. So I recommend, anytime you can pay cash for something, that's the best way to do it, because then you go out, you shoot, you make money, you reinvest that back in your business, as opposed to going into debt and letting your debt drive your business. That's never a position you want to be in. So hopefully you found this enjoyable. Hopefully you found this useful. If you did, I would love it if you would like and subscribe. Feel free to leave some comments below. We can talk about cameras down there. We can talk about what might make the most sense depending on what you want to do. I'm always happy to engage, and if there are more questions that come out of this, then I'm happy to make some more videos about how we can best serve you when it comes to buying the best camera. I hope you get out there, try some new cameras, new camera systems, and make some amazing photographs. Happy shooting.